Hi everyone, welcome to Konveyor community meeting. This meeting abides by Konveyor's code of conduct, which means please be nice to one another. It will be recorded and available in YouTube for future viewing. So, without any delays, I have pasted the agenda in the chat. I am going to do it one more time. So, if you all can add your name to the agenda, that would be awesome. Here we go. And our first topic for the day is from Dylan.
All right. Thanks, Vita. I'm going to try to distill this into a little really high level overview so we don't spend too much time on the details because I do have kind of a discussion I was hoping to bring to the group here. What I've been working on for the past, I think I brought this up last community call, it's really been a few weeks, but mainly just because I've been bouncing around between a few things, is I've been trying to talk to folks involved in all of the different components of Konveyor and trying to understand basically how could folks benefit from an upstream CI system. Like essentially what kind of test coverage is actually going to provide value to each component involved, and then at a high level, how can we actually develop some good integration testing frameworks that would allow us to have confidence when we go to make a release that the release is functional, there's no regressions, the features that we've implemented are being validated. And then additionally, as developers are going and adding new features, I'm someone who hates writing tests, but if we can make it really simple for folks to go and add a new test case for whatever feature they're developing, whatever bug they're fixing, then it's really a win-win-win. So I've tried to give just a really brief high-level summary of what I think we should do moving forward in terms of developing some form of testing. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of already been put out there in the community, and then folks that have just kind of gone and done their own proof of concepts, their own discussions. And I kind of wanted to hone down what exactly is right for the community to do in terms of a system that can scale up to handle testing of all the different components, as well as integration testing across all of them. So I would encourage you, this is not a very long document whatsoever. My hope is that you can read this very quickly. It's not really in the weeds of what a testing framework looks like. In fact, that was one of my non-goals. I don't want to be sitting here and arguing like Jinko versus Gomega and stuff like that on this call. I think that's kind of a waste of time. In my opinion, I kind of wanted to come to the conclusion of what should we write the test in, right? Whether not just a language, but more specifically, how do we write these tests so that the goals that I just outlined are easily achievable? And I kind of distilled this down to, based on where we are today and where we want to go, to kind of two phases, right? There's some existing work. Actually, let me just start with the existing work and come back to the phases to kind of explain this. So I believe Shavita or Mayan, someone demoed this on the community call about a month ago. There's some existing Konveyor API tests that were written in Python. That's fantastic. I was able to use this as a pretty good template to start envisioning where I would basically be writing tests. So this is all written in Python. It essentially does CRUD testing of the Hub API. And the benefit of starting here is that once you build a set of fixtures that can drive the API itself, that gets you closer to the goal of integration testing, right? If I have a bunch of helper functions that allow me to log in and authenticate with the hub, create applications, run the analysis, run the assessment, done, and then I'm also required to run integration tests. So there's an existing Python test suite that is being maintained by Shvita and Mayan right now. I highly recommend you take a look at this if you haven't seen that already. I know that was demoed a while back. And then Merrick went out and kind of did like a proof of concept of just doing Hub API testing as well. And doing Hub API testing with a tool that's called Venom, which I never heard of before, but this is also really cool. essentially gives you a way to write tests, not necessarily in a programming language, but by defining a bunch of YAML files. So let me just try and find an example. Hopefully this makes sense. Right, so if I want to go and create an application and run essentially a test on post of an API, you're defining a set of YAML with a body, the path, all that kind of stuff, and you write a list of assertions, all in YAML. So it's really human readable. It's really easy to comprehend and understand. It's pretty easy to write new test cases, right? So this is another proof of concept that America explored with a tool called Venom. So if I kind of come back up here, my thought was, my real goal here is to get to the stage of integration testing. To me, that's the value of a CI system, is that when I go and make a PR to one component, I'm verifying that the entire system didn't break, right? So to get there, I think that starting with phase one of covering the API in the hub is a really good goal, right? If we can develop these fixtures for the API tests, getting integration testing done is basically going to be low-hanging fruit on top of that. So in phase one, my suggestion, and this is kind of what I was hoping to basically bring up for discussion. Originally, my intention was to write table-driven tests in Go. I don't really feel like using a framework yet until something necessitates it. Like, I've used Jinko in the past, I've used GoMega in the past. I think that there's a lot of value and benefits there, but it also requires, it's another barrier to entry, right? Like, folks got to go learn how that framework works. And for some of the basic tests that I'm trying to write, it's a little bit of an overkill, right? So my first suggestion was, if we just start somewhere, I would want to replicate what's in the Python test suite in Golang. And I want to do that using table-driven tests. That's not because I think the Python test suite lacks anything. In fact, I'm using it as a template to go build some of these Go tests. My thought was, the hub's written in Go. Basically, there's analyzer code being written in Go. From the community perspective, I felt like it made more sense. People that we're attracting to this community are probably going to be more proficient in Golang than Python. I'd probably prefer to have the entire test suite written in Go as well. But that's something I'm looking for feedback on. And if we can just real quick, I'm sorry, I know I'm a little over time here, but I was trying to just show what an outline of this would look like without actually writing real code, which I have some of this, but I have to go push all it up. Right? If I wanted to go and replicate what you saw in Merrick's repository, as well as in the Python tests, right? If I just write basic table-driven testing in Go, I want to test the post endpoint of the applications, or sorry, the post method of the applications endpoint, and I can write a create test.go. I define essentially an array of tests, and I can develop a set of fixtures that drive the create application endpoint, right? So now, if I go through this, again, the goal being that phase two, I can write integration testing. If I go and essentially have a set of functions that go and drive the API, and again, this doesn't actually do anything, just trying to show you a skeleton. I now go and have, I now have create application, right? And create application can go and import an application into the hub. I then write a function for analysis. I can cover the analysis endpoint as well. And by the time I've built out all these fixtures for phase one, I can go into phase two and write a really basic, here's a Tomcat app, import the app, run the analysis, check the report, right? So let me just check. So I added a few stories of basically who I think this impacts, which is, I think, everyone, to be honest, but you can take a look at that. And then lastly, there was a really good discussion that actually happened just yesterday that Jeff initiated, which was essentially describing what testing of the hub is actually useful. And to me, this was a good example of what fits into phase one, is trying to write test coverage for the hub that actually provides value for the people that are working on the hub. And then I can reuse all of this work when I go and actually want to start doing integration testing. So I would strongly recommend you read this. I didn't understand how add-ons worked until I read this discussion, so this was super helpful to me. Yeah, I think I'll just pause there. I'm kind of we don't have to have the entire discussion here, but I would strongly encourage folks to go leave comments if you feel opinionated about this kind of thing. Otherwise, probably just going to go and start trying to build out that Golang test suite. And I'm looking for help. A few folks have already expressed interest in helping. And I'm just kind of hoping that I'm going in the right path. So as someone that's kind of newer to the community, I just want to make sure I'm actually writing tests that are providing value to all the individuals here. So I guess I'll pause if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll ask that you provide feedback on the PR itself.
So Dylan, I just want to offer my support. I'll contact you. I teach test-driven development and behavior-driven development at New York University, and on Coursera. And so I can show you what I do in Python with test fixtures and stuff, and then you could relate that to Go, and maybe we can get somewhere. So I'd be happy to help you with that.
I love to hear that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Actually, I had one last thing to mention, which I did include a link here. I'm just like a total shill for this blog. If you've never seen it, this is essentially this was gave to me like, I don't know, 3 years ago by another engineer that I really respected here at Red Hat, about table-driven testing in Go. Please, if you've never seen this before, I strongly recommend you read through it. It's exactly how I write all my tests, and I still refer back to this blog like every year. So just wanted to call out that resource if you've never seen it before. Any other questions? Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. I have two topics. Just informational one. The first one, we will have a small kiosk at the KubeCon Amsterdam design for the Konveyor project. We can there be a monitor, and we can talk about the project and have contributors, folks that are interested, create awareness and everything. It's full time. It's gonna be there for like 3 days. Wednesday, I forgot the date. Sorry, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday until 2:30 p.m. So if you know anyone, I have asked for you all. If you know anyone who is interested in our project or thinking about learning more about our project and they are attending the KubeCon, send them this way. I don't have the floor plan yet. Once the floor plan is available, I'll let you all know where this project pavilion would be located and send them our way. So that is one thing that I want to mention. And there is also another thing that I wanted to bring up. So there is this, all of you know about the enhancements repo, and we have a couple of discussions there. If you haven't looked at it, please feel free to look at it, add in your thoughts and comments and questions. We can bring that up in the next Konveyor community call or respective SIG meetings. Those are the two things. Does anyone have any question for me? Sorry, I just talked too fast. I'm super excited about the project kiosk. So it's the first time they are doing the sandbox projects.
Yeah, that's great. It's cool.
Right, folks. Does anyone have any topic to add? Anything that they want to bring up?
I thought we have a demo scheduled by Divya on add-on today. Is it not in the agenda?
Yes, for the TCA add-on.
I don't see it on the agenda, but I see Divya in the call.
Yeah, it was supposed to be for today. So if we have some time and if everyone's okay, I can present it.
Of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So let me share my screen. All right, so for today's demo, we are going to talk about the application TCA. TCA stands for Tackle Container Advisor and is an open source application in the Konveyor toolchain. We have developed an add-on for integrating TCA into the Tackle2 hub, and we'll also be seeing a quick demo of that today. So I'll start by giving a little bit of background of what TCA itself is. So a client's journey to modernizing their application begins with first analyzing and assessing the application components used in their application and determine whether these components can be migrated to the cloud or not. In order to do that, what clients usually do is they give their application data, which contains the application description and a lot of other details, to subject matter experts. This data is usually in the form of Excel sheets or CSV files, and the subject matter expert sits and goes through this entire file to extract just the application components used in each of these applications and manually extract the container images for them, match them to that, and then determine whether these individual components can be containerized or not. And large clients can have large application portfolios with like thousands or even 10,000s of applications. So as we can imagine, this process could take any time from like weeks to even sometimes months, as it's very, very time consuming, as it's a manual process. And this is where TCA comes into play. TCA automates this process and can assess even thousands of applications within a matter of minutes. Said that, let's look at what TCA itself offers. So we have 3 different APIs in TCA: standardize, clustering, and containerize. So the clients usually give their input in like a very raw format. It does not follow any naming convention. So they input just the natural language description of the components in their technology stack, and the standardize API standardize each of these input components and gives out a standardized name. The clustering basically groups together applications with similar technology stacks. And containerize is where we actually give a container recommendation, whether this particular application can be containerized or so on. And it actually does that by matching each of the components to their corresponding container images. So that for the add-on purpose, the add-on just uses the standardized and containerized APIs. So we'll just go a little bit more detail into just these 2 APIs alone, just the input and output format. So the input to the standardized is here. So it has the application name, the application description, and the technology summary. It is in the technology summary where we have the client input, which is just a raw input. And the output of standardize is here. So this is what we get as an output. The given input is standardized. These are the standard names, and they're also categorized into the corresponding categories. We have 6 different categories in TCA. So Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a type operating system. So it's like it's categorized as operating system, Java as in language, and so on. So this is a standardized output. So the standardized output is fed as an input to the containerized API. And let's also look at how our containerized output looks like. This is our output from containerized. So here we have, there is a link to the image URL that is being matched for this particular component. And similarly, like we do this for all the different components in the application. And then based on that, we recommend whether this application can be containerized or partially containerized or so on. We also have a CLI version of TCA, which we actually use for the add-on. So let's look at the demo of the add-on itself. I'll start by creating, and this is the Tackle UI, and I'll start by creating an application here in the Tackle UI. So I already have created a business service. I'm just using that. So I think this creates a new application here. This is app 23. And so I need to get, sorry, no, I did not create. Let me just create another one, test app 23. Oh, sorry. I didn't know this name exists. So I'll make it 24. Right, so we have created a new application here that's test app 24, and we need to get the ID of this particular application, and that can be done by looking at all the applications we have here. If you scroll down, this gives us all the applications in the UI, and it gives the ID. So the ID of this particular application is 12. Now let's make a quick code change in order to run our add-on. So in our code, we have this task, which is a shell script that has a curl command. And in the curl command, we have the application to which this particular task itself is associated. And here is where we specify the ID. So the application that we've newly created is of ID 12, and I want to run this task associated with this particular application. And here is the data that we pass as an input to our application. So, and here's the technology summary. So this is the input to our standardized, and yeah, we can give anything here. So service Python and db2. So running this shell script executes our add-on. So let me just quickly do that. This particular task has an ID 56. So just pinned up this task. If we go look at the task itself. Right. So this gives some details about the task. So this is the data that we have passed as input, and then it gives the application that this task is tied to, and the state of this add-on is succeeded. So here's the activity. So the activity actually kind of, it's like a log that prints out when the add-on executes. So it basically fetches the data that we have passed, and it invokes the TCA CLI. This is where it gets invoked, and then it runs the CLI, and if it runs successfully, we get succeeded. And the output of standardize is actually we have tagged the standardized names, and the output can be viewed on the UI itself. So if we go look at the application.
You're looking at 10 of 12, so it might be on the next page.
Yeah, I think I need to go to the next page. All right, so here is my application, and this is the standardized output that we have from our raw input. So these colors actually tell us like which category this particular tag belongs to. So we can look that up over here. If we go to controls, we have tags, and there are 6 inbuilt tag types that's already present. And we can also create custom types, but yeah, these are the inbuilt types. So the tags get, every time a tag gets created, it has to be associated to a particular tag type. And each of these types have colors, and that's why we see those colors here for each of those tags that got created for the application. And yeah, the TCA CLI also runs the containerize. So the containerize output is set as facts, and that can be viewed by directly looking at the application itself. Application 12. So it's set as a fact. So if we see here is our container advisory, where we recommend whether this particular application can be containerized or not. And here in this case, it is containerized. And it also gives us the URL, container image URL. Yeah, so this is all I had for today's demo. Any questions?
Yeah, so I just want to point out one of the powerful features of Tackle Hub is tagging, and one of the tedious features of Tackle Hub is tagging. Right? So this takes the human readable description of the app and then generates standard tags from it. So that's kind of the value here of being able to tag your applications, with just a click.
And to add on top of that, we've seen that the import format that we have, the CSV format that we have right now, it's pretty clunky when it comes to tagging applications at scale. So I think this will help simplify simply having a column in the CSV file, or in the future maybe an Excel file, in which you say, hey, technology or technology description, and we will have a natural language description of the technology stack for each application, and then TCA will be able to transform that into normalized entities that will be transformed into tags for each one of the applications in the inventory. So this is going to be pretty useful.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a question about one of the parameters that you passed in the shell script.
Mm-hmm.
Who is supposed to pass the application underscore summary parameter? Like, is it coming from the user or?
Yeah, it comes to the user. So in the case, like once it's integrated, I think it will be coming from the client data.
Gone. Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone.
Great
Does
job,
anyone have wonderful demo? Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Divya and team? Cool. We have reached the end of the agenda. So last one final call. Does anyone have any other topic that they will bring up? Okay. Thank you all for another wonderful Konveyor community meeting. If you have any items that you want to bring up, we have our SIG calls next Thursday, and we have our community call in 2 weeks. And don't wait until then. Post your queries in Slack channel, and I will see you all in a couple weeks. Bye, everyone.
Great.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.